Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Weekly in Sports. I am Scott McGregor. On today's program, this is the end of the month September show in October. The PWHL season schedule for season 3 is out. We have the preseason schedule for the PWHL is out. And hockey season in the NHL has just begun. Plus, the MLB playoffs are in full swing, as is the NFL season. We're talking about it all on this episode of Weekly in Sports. Welcome to What's Happening in the Sports World Today, hosted by your host of the Sports for Beginners podcast, Scott McGregor. Today, Scott has some exciting news for all of you listening today. I wonder what it could be, so let's find out and join Scott in the studio now. We welcome you in to our end of the month September show with some October news. Well, that's a little unusual, but we weren't really able to get a September program into you. We'll begin our program by letting you know that I am Scott McGregor, your host of the program. Thank you for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome aboard. If it's your second time, thank you for being with us. If it's your third time or somewhere in between, we thank you for being with us. On today's show, the MLB playoffs are in full swing, and we are just a few days away from the ALCS beginning. The Chicago Cubs beat the Milwaukee Brewers yesterday 6-0 to force a Game 5 in that series. The LA Dodgers advanced to the NLCS with a 2-1 walk-off victory over the Philadelphia Phillies to advance to the NLCS. The Blue Jays with a 5-2 win over the New York Yankees now await the winner of tonight's ALDS finale as Game 5 between the Detroit Tigers and the Seattle Mariners goes down, which leaves us with a question, Blue Jays fans. Who's it going to be playing the Blue Jays in the ALCS, which they achieved that goal of going to the ALCS for the first time since 2016 with a 5-2 victory over the New York Yankees. The Yankees started locker cleanout day after Wednesday's loss on Thursday, and their offseason is well underway. Another question that we have on the Major League Baseball side of things is whether it's Detroit or Seattle, who's going to get the opening night start in the ALCS? Could it be the young gun, Trey Savage? Could it be Kevin Gausman? Could it be Shane Bieber? I'm going over guys that the Blue Jays were able to use. Heck, we could see a bullpen game in Game 1 for the Blue Jays with Louis Varland. I'm just spitballing here. Here's what we do know about Game 1 of the ALCS. Here's what we do know. First pitch of that series will be at 8:03 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Mountain, and it will take place in Toronto, Ontario, at Rogers Centre. Game 2 depends on the results of Brewers Cubs, but according to Sportsnet and the MLB, as well as The Score, who also had that article when the times were released, if it is the Cubs advancing Game 2 of the series that takes place at Rogers Centre this Sunday is likely an afternoon game, with the NLCS beginning on Monday in game number 1. So here's what we know. Game 1 of the ALCS is an 8:03 p.m. start against Detroit, or Seattle. The question is, who's it going to be? We find that out tonight. But ladies and gentlemen, what we don't know yet is the time of game 2. And here's what I have for you from my Sportsnet app via the report that came out when times were being determined. The Blue Jays will host either the Seattle Mariners or the Detroit Tigers. Sorry, the Detroit Tigers or the Seattle Mariners in Game 1 of the ALCS on Sunday at 8:08 Eastern, 8:08 p.m. Eastern, 5:08 p.m. Pacific. The game will be available on Sportsnet and Sportsnet Plus. The start time for Game 2 on Monday depends on the result in the National League Division Series. Game 2 will be a 5:03 start, a 5:03 p.m. Eastern start, 2:03 p.m. Pacific start, if and only if the Milwaukee Brewers advanced to the NLCS, which will begin later that night at 8:08 p.m., 5:08 p.m. Pacific. If the Chicago Cubs eliminate the Brewers on Saturday and advance, Game 2 of the ALCS will be a 4:38 p.m. time, 1:38 p.m. Pacific time start, and Game 1 of the NLCS will follow at 7:08 p.m. Eastern, 4:08 p.m. Pacific. On Tuesday at 8:08 p.m. Eastern, 5:08 p.m. Pacific. And again, as we mentioned off the top of the Weekly in Sports September program that is being talked about here in October, the Blue Jays advanced to their first ALCS since 2016 with a Game 4 win over the New York Yankees on Wednesday. The Tigers and Mariners will play a winner-take-all Game 5 on Friday night to face the Blue Jays. The Dodgers played the Phillies on Thursday night in Game 4, and the Dodgers took care of business in extra innings, in 11 innings, with a 2-1 win over the Phillies. And of course, we have a winner-take-all. Brewers versus Cubs game, which will determine Los Angeles' opponent. 3 of the ALCS, Detroit and Toronto, or Seattle and Toronto. Game 3 will take place on Wednesday from Detroit or Seattle. Game time set to be determined. Game 2 of that NLCS is either at 8:08 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:08 p.m. Central Time. Game 1, however, on Monday is a 7:07 p.m. Eastern Time or 8:08 p.m. Eastern Time start, depending on who advances from the Cubs-Brewers series. The other thing that we don't know yet on the National League side is, are the Dodgers hosting the NLCS, or are they hosting the NLCS, or are they going to Milwaukee? All right, we have a little bit of a blackout here in our screen, but that's okay. Game 7, 6, and 5 are, if necessary. Only 4 games are needed to win and go to the World Series. The NLCS would wrap up on Tuesday, but only if necessary. If both series go in 4 games, Thursday would be the wrap-up for Toronto versus Seattle or Detroit, and that would be in Comerica Park or at the home of the Seattle Mariners on Thursday, October 16th. Friday, October 17th would be Game 5 in the NLCS. Game 4 would go on Friday with 5 on Saturday. All right, that's a little bit of the baseball talk, and that keeps us rolling here on our opening segment. And that was our lead off to the opening. Keeping it going here, let's turn the page to the hockey side of things. Breaking hockey news. Breaking news. Not only is it a new era for women's hockey, in the Women's World Championship, but the Season 3 regular season schedule was just announced earlier this month in the PWHL. This also marks the opening chapter of the expansion clubs, Team Vancouver and Team Seattle. Here's what we need to know. Puck Drop is slated for November the 2025 with an opening night doubleheader featuring the first ever game between the two expansion clubs, PWHL Seattle and PWHL Vancouver. The regular season will consist of 120 games scheduled, with each team to play 30 games. The Professional Women's Hockey League announced on October 1st, when they brought the announcement out, 2025, that they unveiled the official 2025-2026 regular season schedule, set to begin on Friday, November 21st. The PWHL's third season will feature a total of 120 games for the first time in league history, up with all 30 teams playing 30 regular season matchups for the second straight year. The PWHL's opening weekend will see all 8 teams hit the ice, beginning with a doubleheader on Friday, November 21st, 2025, with the first game featuring the reigning two-time Walter Cup champion Minnesota Frost as they host the Toronto Scepters at Grand Casino Arena at 7 p.m. Eastern, followed by the launch of the PWHL's new West Coast rivalry between expansion teams PWHL Seattle and PWHL Vancouver at 10 p.m. Eastern at Pacific Coliseum. The weekend of action continues Saturday, November 22nd, with the Ottawa Charge hosting the New York Sirens at 10 p.m. Eastern at TD Place, and Sunday, November 23rd, with the Boston Fleet welcoming in the Montreal Victoire to the Tsonga Center at UMass Lowell at 1 p.m. Eastern. Jana Hetford, PWHL Executive Vice President of Hockey Operations, said, Season 3 will truly be special, Season 3 will be truly special with the highly anticipated debut of our first expansion teams in Seattle and Vancouver, and the growth of the PWHL community to the West Coast. We can't wait for Puck Drop to see the impact our new and returning players will make and to deliver a competitive season with even more games for fans to enjoy. Season ticket memberships provide the best value to experience the PWHL and are available now. For information, please visit thepwhl.com/tickets. All teams will offer pre-built partial ticket packages on October 7th. Single game tickets will be available starting on Tuesday, October 14th, 2025. PWHL teams may also introduce additional package options leading up to the season, as well as throughout the season. Fans can stay up to date on detailed ticketing information for their preferred team by signing up for the team-specific email lists by visiting team pages on the PWHL website, thepwhl.com. The complete regular season schedule can be viewed online in the link of which we are just going to go ahead and take a look at. But first, let's take a look at our PWHL preseason. Each team will play 2 games in the preseason against a different squad. For the original 6 teams, they will play each other twice, with Boston and Montreal playing on Saturday, November 5th at Verdun Auditorium, and then again on Monday, November 17th at 2 p.m. Eastern. Minnesota, afternoon showdowns against the Sirens. First on Thursday, November 13th at 3 p.m. at Code Arena. at Code Arena, and then Friday, November 14th, at 12 p.m. Eastern. It's a doubleheader on November the 15th, as also at 7, but at 7 p.m. Pacific time, 10 p.m. Eastern, following that Montreal and Boston game at Verdun Auditorium. Pacific Coliseum presents Vancouver versus Seattle. That will also happen on Sunday, November 16th at p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, as part of a doubleheader that we'll see at 1 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, or 10 a.m. Pacific, rather, the Battle of Ontario at 1 p.m. Eastern at TD Place. TD Place will also be the home of Ottawa and Toronto at 1 p.m. Eastern on Monday, November 17th, 2025. Each squad will play each other once. Actually, twice, I should say. The preseason runs from the 13th to the 17th and will feature the matchups in order of first, Minnesota and New York on Thursday and Friday, 3 p.m. 12 p.m. Eastern start times at Code Arena. At the Verdun Auditorium, Saturday's doubleheader features the Boston Fleet against the Montreal Victoire, followed later by at Pacific Coliseum, Seattle and Vancouver. Then we go to TD Place and back to Pacific Coliseum on Sunday, November 16th, when Seattle and Vancouver will duke it out once more. And we will see the first Ottawa versus Toronto preseason matchup before they do it again on Monday night, or on Monday, November 17th at 1 p.m. Eastern at TD Place. And then from there, back to the Verdun Auditorium we go at 2 p.m. Eastern for Montreal versus Boston. The regular season will start out like this doubleheader, as mentioned, as the home opener of Vancouver and Minnesota takes center stage on puck drop night on opening weekend, with the Minnesota Frost taking on the Toronto Scepters at 7 p.m. East, followed later at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, Vancouver taking on Seattle. The Ottawa Charge home opener keeps us rolling on Saturday with New York coming into town, 10 p.m. Eastern puck drop, 6 p.m. Then on Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern, it's the Boston Fleet home opener as they take on the Montreal Victoire. The Montreal Victoire will be in Boston. They'll have their home opener against the New York Sirens on Tuesday, November 25th, 2025. Seattle's home opener is Friday, November 24th at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Then it's the New York Sirens home opener on Saturday, followed by the Toronto home opener on Saturday as well. Game time 12 p.m. Eastern for the Sirens at Prudential Center, and at Coca-Cola Coliseum, it's the Fleet versus Toronto at 2 p.m. Eastern. That'll wrap it up for home openers in the PWHL and also the first month of the season, because then you're into December rather. And with that being said, lots of women hockey coming on the PWHL. We're going to take a break, talk NFL, and of course, shout outs of the month. For the month of September, the shout-outs of the month will be for the podcast shout-outs. And then a little later, we'll go back to hockey, talk a little bit about the Pittsburgh Penguins, and we'll wrap it all up by telling you what's in store for our spooky edition of Weekly in Sports on the program for the end of the month October show, which we hope to release before, well, the holiday itself. Halloween. You're listening to Weekly in Sports, the podcast, and we continue in just moments. Stay with us.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo, two powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
Looking for conversations on the world of broadcasting, sports media, and from time to time, my favorite sports teams? Listen to Broadcast Map with me, Ali Musa. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Broadcast Map Facebook page. Search Broadcast Map.
All right, time now to talk a little football. We're into week number 6 of the NFL season. But before we talk NFL, we have a little segment we like to do here on Weekly in Sports for any of our end of the month program shows that we do here on the podcast. We call Shoutouts of the Month. It was called Shoutouts of the Week, but we started moving the podcast to monthly, so without any further ado, here we go. Recently, I've been listening to podcasts like Spill with Me, Jenny D, a Pittsburgh podcast that I'm pretty sure some of you in Pittsburgh might be listening to. Why did I choose Spill with Me, Jenny D? Well, for 2 reasons. First, I love the show, and the very first episode I listened to had a Penguins broadcaster that I've been listening to for quite a while. And spoiler alert, he does these things called Game Day Question of the Day. Have you figured out which guest I've listened to? Let's move on to our second shout out. As always, they're always in the mix. Want to give a shout to our friends over at Sienna T Radio, making your day brighter one song at a time. As always, great shout outs to Sienna, Samantha, Robert, and Nick for all the good stuff they do. And I can't forget about Ali. And speaking of Ali, why not throw Makara into the mix, as he and Makara have their own podcast they do together. They call Ali and Makara's Books. 2 great shows, and it is hosted by yours truly, who does that show with Makara, Ali Musa. Sometimes he'll have another person with him doing it. I appreciated my time doing stuff with him before the show changed to Broadcast Map, and even when it was there, I still do enjoy listening to his conversations, as many as I can. Spill with Me, Jenny D, Broadcast Map, Sienna T Radio, and let's not forget Ali and Makara's Books, also in the mix as well. Another shout out is really a number of shout outs, because I've talked about this network for a while, and if you listen to this network, you know which one I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Broadcast Locked On podcast network, where they have tons of different great shows. I recently, after the Penguins beat the Rangers, decided to check out Up in the Blue Shirts, which is not necessarily a Locked On podcast network show, but it is a New York Post show that I decided to check out. And I gotta say, I'm very impressed with how they run their show. I really am. And also, I only check out Hunter and Patrick on Locked On Penguins, but I thought, what the hell? I'll go check out Locked On Rangers, and I enjoyed that first episode that I ever listened to. Oh, by the way, I've also tuned into Locked On Flames. Not as of late, but I had tuned in last season to at least maybe one episode, specifically around Johnny Gaudreau. As many of you know, Johnny and his brother Matthew both lost their lives in an accident that they got into, and therefore their careers were cut short. We honor Johnny and Matthew, members of the Columbus Blue Jackets, members of the hockey community, and I think it was only fitting during the NHL draft to have Johnny's wife come on and give the Columbus Blue Jackets draft picks, at least their first one. Of course, the Boston Bruins' first draft pick was picked by, it was announced by, Mr. Adam Sandler, aka Happy Gilmore. Among other guys, he acted as. Another shout out from Locked On goes to Erica Lindsay Ayala. I've had her on the show, not on Weekly in Sports, but I've had her on the Sports for Beginners show a couple of times. Well, only once to the exact, but I might have her on the show a couple of times. I might have her on the show a couple of times to talk PWHL, Seattle Kraken, you name it. Maybe we'll talk WNBA. And speaking of the PWHL, Erica and Rachel both do a show called the Women's Hockey Report on Locked On NHL, which talked on Locked On NHL, which talks about women's hockey from the PWHL to college women hockey to world women hockey, etc. So maybe I will have Rachel and Erica, or one of the two, join me on a show to talk about that. And last but certainly not least, there's a lot of people I could give shout outs to when it comes to the Blue Jays coverage that I get, but I gotta talk about my boys, Avery and Johnny, on Gate 14 podcast. Gentlemen, wonderful work with the podcast over this postseason run and this Blue Jays season. Really enjoy what you guys are putting together when I can get a chance to listen to it. Sometimes after mark episodes as played, but that's because life happens. And a big, big, big shout out to my friend Melanie Taddeo Malo. Her and Garrett put great stuff together on Take Another Look, the podcast. The show right now, as I heard, is under hiatus because there's some other stuff going on with Garrett and Melanie, but I won't get into what it is because that's their business, not mine. And it's also not my place to say, unless they provide me with information that I can use. And by use, I mean explain. Therefore, that'll put a bow on our September end of the month podcast shoutouts and move us to our NFL talk. For those who don't know yet, the Buffalo Bills, the Philadelphia Phillies, came into week number 5 at 4-0. They have since dropped to 5-2. Just the Philadelphia Eagles have done that. Only the Eagles so far. The Buffalo Bills actually 4-1, and the Eagles are actually 4-2, not 5-2. They are 4-2. They dropped the opener of week 6, which was Thursday Night Football, to the New York Football Giants, who improved to 2-4. Other action this week includes the Denver Broncos at 3-2 against the 0-5 New York Jets in London on Sunday Morning Football at 9:30 a.m. this Sunday morning on October 12th, 2025. Also this Sunday, the Rams at 3-2 take on the 1-4 Ravens in the afternoon slate of Sunday's games. Still early slate though, and speaking of that early slate, when you continue on with that, you have the 2-1 Cowboys fresh off the bye taking on the 2-3 Panthers, who improved to 2-3 after beating the 1-3 Miami Dolphins last week. Miami is now 1-4. They will take on the 3-2 LA Chargers. This week, the 4-1 Indianapolis Colts taking on the 2-3 Arizona Cardinals. This week, the 4-1 Jacksonville Jaguars take on the 3-2 Seattle Seahawks. The 3-1 Pittsburgh Steelers, fresh off their bye, take on the 1-4 Cleveland Browns. 3-2 New England Patriots take on the 1-4 New Orleans Saints. In the late afternoon window, the 1-4 Tennessee Titans take on the 1-4 Las Vegas Raiders. And a battle of 4-1s goes down at 4:25 p.m. Eastern as the 4-1 San Francisco 49ers visit the 4-1 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And also in that slate, the 2-3 Cincinnati Bengals take on the 2-1 Green Bay Packers in Lambeau Field this week. Sunday Night Football this week is the 2-3 Chiefs hosting the 4-1 Lions. Game time at 8:20 p.m. Eastern. Doubleheader on Monday Night Football features the Buffalo Bills at 4-1, taking on 2-2 Atlanta Falcons, who are fresh off their bye. Buffalo is going into the bye week next week in week number 7. More on my thoughts on Buffalo in just a little bit. The 2-2 Bears taking on the 3-2 Commanders are the other side of that doubleheader. Game time 8:15 p.m. Eastern for the Bears and Commanders, 7:15 p.m. Eastern for the Falcons and the Bills in Atlanta. Teams on the bye this week are the 2-3 Texans. They will face Seattle next week, and the 3-2 Vikings facing off against the Eagles, who are now 4-2. Eagles fell 34-17 on Thursday Night Football. Still action to be brought up in week number 6 that I'm sure is gonna be good. All right, let's go to Buffalo's thoughts so far. Has the defense been good? No. Have they been good when they've needed to be good? Debatable. I believe the Buffalo Bills can still finish the season as a playoff team. I truly still believe that. This past week, in week 5, was the first time the Bills had not scored 30 plus points. They did it in week 1 and came back to beat Baltimore 41-40. They put up a 20-point win over the Jets, 10, scoring 30 plus points in that game. Same thing with Miami, but it was a 10-point game that time. They beat Miami, and the vibes kept on coming until last week when they lost 20 to the New England Patriots on Sunday Night Football. The New Orleans Saints was a win as well. Buffalo put up 30 points, 31-19 the final there. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here come the Falcons. And we take a look at the rest of the Bills' schedule here. You got the Panthers, the Chiefs, Dolphins, Bucks, Texans, Steelers, Bengals, Patriots, Browns, Eagles, Jets. Those are the teams you still have left. But again, you got the Falcons first, which is this week. Then you go on the bye. Then you got Panthers, Chiefs, Dolphins, Bucks, Texans, Bengals, Steelers before the Bengals, Patriots, Browns, Eagles, Jets, all the way down to the final game of the season. That's against the Jets. Should be interesting down the stretch. But first, we got to take care of business against the Falcons on Monday Night Football. Now, this is the only time this season the Buffalo Bills will be in primetime on a Monday night. It's kind of funny that it's on the Canadian Thanksgiving holiday that the Bills are playing. So right now, since week of Canadian Thanksgiving, I'd like to wish all Bills fans that are Canadians like myself a happy Thanksgiving. The Buffalo Bills will be playing the Falcons. So while you're eating some stuffing, turkey, maybe a roast beef if you don't do turkey, maybe roast beef, maybe get some potatoes in there, maybe get some potato salad in there, maybe you're watching the ball game between the Falcons and the Bills, or maybe you're monitoring the game like I might be, or rather will be. Whatever the case is, I'm sure you'll put it to good use as we get into the bye. So, do I like the Bills' start so far? Absolutely. Would I love it better if we went into the bye at 6-0? Oh, absolutely. I would. But you can't win them all, and we lost 23-20 to the New England Patriots. Now you got the Falcons, who are 2-2, and they are fresh off their bye. So will I be happy with a 4-2 record? Yeah. I'll be happy with that. Will I be happy with a 5-1 record? Absolutely, I will be. I'll take a 5-1 record to the locker room and take it into the bye. I'll take a 5-1 record into the bye week. Will it happen? We're going to find out on Monday. But my overall thoughts have stand out so far. Josh has been a bit questionable after getting hurt in the Jets game, and the Bills found a way to win that game for Josh. Now, Josh has 2 picks this season, but he has more touchdowns than he does picks. 9 total touchdowns this season. His completion percentage is 70.40%, or is 70.4%, I should say. And he has passed for 1,217 yards this season. Kincaid is the leading receiver, 287 yards, 20 catches, 3 touchdowns, averaging 14.35 yards a catch. You also have Kale Shakir, 22 catches, 2 touchdowns, 10.68 average, 235 yards receiving. James freaking Cook running the ball. You know, I'm surprised Josh isn't running the ball as much as James is, because look at this for his season. 450 rushing yards for James friggin' Cook, 90 carries, 5 TDs, and 5 yards averaged on those runs that go into the end zone for James Jimbo Cook. Josh, 40 attempts, 3 touchdowns, averaging 5.3, but 212 yards. Wow, okay. Okay, all right. That's the offensive leaders for 2025. The defensive leaders are Cole Bishop, Terrell Bernard, basically Terrell Bernard in 2 categories, interceptions and tackles. Cole Bishop is the leader in sacks, 2 sacks, 18 tackles, 1 interception. Terrell Bernard, no sacks, 1 interception, no fumbles recovered or forced, 1 pass defensed, which was an interception for Terrell Bernard. That's why he is leading in interceptions. 19 tackles, but still no sacks. Let's go over to the special team leaders. Matt Prater, 10 field goals, 11 attempts. Has a 90.9% chance of making the field goals. His longest field goal was 52 yards. Cameron Johnston, the punter, 7 punts, 48 yards his longest punt, 308 yards. He averages 40. Prater with 10 field goals on 11 attempts. 90.9 of those field goals are good. His longest field goal was 52 yards. All right, so what do I expect from Buffalo? Well, I expect the following: getting ahead and staying ahead, good blocking, not great blocking, but good blocking, so that you give Josh some time to throw the football if he absolutely needs to. Good decisions by Josh with the ball when he has the ball. And on the defensive side, really, really pressure the opposition offense to make the quarterback throw the football, but also don't give him time to do that. Don't give him time. Just don't give him time. This defense has not been able to get to the quarterback a couple of times, and we've seen that in games against Kansas City. We've seen games against Baltimore. We saw times that the defense wasn't able to get to the quarterback in, I guess, in the Jets game. We've seen it in the Miami game, and it was kind of a problem for the Bills in the Patriot game as well. But as Josh said post-game, it was bad football, bad football. And I agree with him. Same thing with Sean McDermott. But the reason you didn't win that game was because you didn't generate enough points. So don't say, because the referee screwed us, that's why we lost the game. That's not the issue. The issue, you didn't score enough points. You tied the game up. We needed a defensive stop for our defense, and we didn't get it. And they kick a game-winning field goal, and there was just not enough time on the field for Josh to do a game-winning drive to win that ball game for us. All right, on the other side, we'll get you a look at what the weekend looks like in the NHL, and I'll get you a look at what the schedule for the MLB looks like as we inch closer to first pitch between the Tigers and the Mariners. I'll even give you my prediction, who I think the Dodgers will face and who will the Blue Jays face. That and more when Weekly in Sports continues after this second and final timeout of our show. We're doing 2 timeouts as it is 4:52 p.m. right now on Friday, October 10th, 2025. Our end of the month September program is going to wrap it up. Even though there's a lot of October programming, we're going to wrap it all up after this. Taking a look at the MLB and taking a look at what's in store on the NHL big Saturday. It's a huge, and I mean huge Saturday, jam-packed with games. Find out what they are when we return.
What a busy traffic on this Friday evening. I am almost stuck in this traffic for the last 40 minutes. And there is no way, I think, for me to get to the show. The CNT Radio Song Bank, which is going to start very shortly. It's one of my favorite shows. And my, what a way to wind down for the weekend. Perfect 2 hours of fun-filled music. And she has so many great features. Sound of Music, Undercover, Foreign Exchange. Name That Tune. And the big wheel that she spins for Who's That or Where Are We? We cannot forget about the international stage. I have never come across such a great show in my life. I think I will have to press hard on my accelerator and go as fast as I can to get home in time. Wow! Wow! Look! I made it! I am almost there! CNT Radio, making your day brighter, one song at a time.
Looking for a sports podcast that covers sports weekly as well as gets you set up for the day? Check out Weekly in Sports with me, Scott McGregor. We give some shout-outs of the week to podcasts like this one and those who do them. Discuss the Blue Jays, Bills, Raptors, and more. To learn more, check out the Sports for Beginners Facebook page. Search Sports for Beginners.
Hello? How are you, my friend? Why? What's the matter? Why feeling bored and lonely? Look at me. I am always happy. The only reason? I can tell you, it's because I listen to CNT Radio. All the best shows you can think of. The Melting Pot, the Cosmopolitan Culture Club, and the Song Bank. There are also many more new shows to come. Please make sure to visit her website at http://sienna-wordpress.com/sienna-radio. Oh, now I can hear you more cheerful. CNT Radio, making your day brighter, one song at a time.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Weekly in Sports, end of the month September programming. We are just 16 hours away, I should say a day, and 16 hours and 35 minutes away from Broncos Jets in Week 6 of the NFL season, live from London, United Kingdom. Personally, I think Denver has a good shot at winning this game, but never say never. Remember, we're down to a one winless team, and all the undefeateds have gone night-night, which means they've lost their first game of the season. So we're down to one winless team. That's the New York Jets. Will they remain winless? And if so, for how long? I don't know. We will see. On to a 16 game, I should say, slate for the NHL, which is a big day. No games today on the Friday, October 10th, 2025. Tomorrow, bang on slate of games, get going. We kick things off with the 1-1 Kings taking on the 0-1 Jets at 1:30 p.m. Eastern from Winnipeg. Then at 4 p.m., the Calgary Flames host the St. Louis Blues. Calgary's record 1-1. The Blues 0-1. The 2-0 Bruins take on the 0-1 Sabres at 7 p.m. Eastern. Also at 7 p.m. Eastern, the Detroit Red Wings 0-1 will host the 1-0 Toronto Maple Leafs. The 0-1 New Jersey Devils pay a visit to the 0-1 Tampa Bay Lightning. The 2-0 Florida Panthers take on the 1-0 Ottawa Senators. The 0-1 Philadelphia Flyers take on the 1-0 Carolina Hurricanes. The 0-1 Capitals pay a visit to the 0-1 Islanders. Most of these are part of Hockey Night in Canada, including Montreal taking on the Blackhawks. Montreal is their part of the 7 p.m. In the 8 p.m. slate, the Utah Mammoth have lost game 1 of their season. They take on the 1-0 the Nashville Predators. Puck drop at 8 p.m. Eastern, same time as the Wild and the Blue Jackets go to battle. Blue Jackets 0-1, Minnesota Wild 1-0. The 0-1 Ducks pay a visit to the Shark Tank against the 0-1 Sharks at 10 p.m. Eastern. The 2-0 Colorado Avalanche pay a visit, I should say get a visit, from the 1-0 Dallas Stars. And the 0-1 and the 0-0-1 Connor McDavid Oilers, Edmonton Oilers, will host the Vancouver Canucks on Hockey Night in Canada, the first Hockey Night in Canada of the season in the nightcap. The Vancouver Canucks have won their first game. They will face the Oilers on Hockey Night in Canada's main event at 10 p.m. Eastern. Game time for the Avalanche and Stars game, 9 p.m. Eastern. The Kraken take on the 1-1 Vegas Golden Knights, and the Seattle Kraken are 1-0 going into that game. Game time 10 p.m. Eastern. 3 10 p.m. games, 1 9 o'clock game, 2 8 o'clock games, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 7 o'clock games, 1 4 o'clock game, and 1:30 p.m. game in a 16-game slate of hockey action this Saturday night. Only one game on Sunday, that is the Rangers and the Capitals, game time 7 p.m. Eastern. 10 games on the slate on Monday, including Red Wings and Maple Leafs, this time from Toronto, and a couple of early games on Monday as well. The nightcaps will be the Mammoth and the Hawks, as well as the Kings and Wild. Puck drops at 8:30 p.m. Eastern in Chicago, 8 p.m. Eastern in Minnesota. Monday Night Hockey doubleheader on Canadian Thanksgiving as Prime Video presents Prime Monday Night Hockey, starting at 4 p.m. Eastern with the Red Wings and the Maple Leafs, and then wrapping up later with the Canucks and the Blues at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. It's on Monday, it's only on Prime. And still lots of other games coming up on the Monday slate. Penguins will be part of an 8-game slate on Tuesday, and wouldn't you know it, Toronto's also playing on that night, but Toronto plays before Pittsburgh. All right, with that being said, that is it. Almost forgot one thing. Join us later this month, on the week before Halloween, rather, so in 2 weeks' time, for our end of the month October show as we get ready for Halloween. You'll hear voice messages from our good friend Ali Musa, the October one specifically. We'll talk a little Halloween, see what's going on around the world of sports, and I'll even tell you, for the sake of shout outs of the month, I'll take you through some of my favorite Halloween music that I like to shout out. We won't play the music because we're being careful with copyright, but we will. I will bring you a list of my top 10 Halloween songs. Maybe I'll make it top 5 for time consuming. We'll see. But with that said, that's what you can expect on the end of the month October show. This was an end of the month September show that had some October news. So that's kind of not relevant to September. But what was relevant to September was the fact that the MLB playoffs are underway and the Blue Jays are heading to the ALCS in October baseball. And WWE Crown Jewel Perth is tomorrow. So we will have more on the October program about how WWE Crown Jewel in Perth went down. But if you want instant access on that, check out the recap program, even now available on Stephanie McMahon's podcast, What's Your Story? Once again, that's Stephanie McMahon's podcast, which is called What's Your Story. If you want to check it out, when this show hits the air, I will leave a link in the description so that you could check out What's Your Story, a WWE podcast hosted by Stephanie McMahon and is one of the WWE and Fanatics podcasts in partnership with Fanatics. But that'll be a WWE thing to tell you. My name is Scott McGregor. It is 5:13 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much for joining us here on the show. I really appreciate you coming on whenever you have time, whether it's during the month of when we are preparing for another show, when the show hits live. Really, really appreciate it. Working out a lot of kinks that we can with Sports for Beginners, On the Ice and Behind the Benches, and of course, weekly in sports as well. So whenever you can check in this show as a monthly drop show, and whenever we can get one to you, we greatly appreciate your listenership, no matter how long the show may be. That's why I like to always remind listeners that you do not have to finish the episode. There's no need to rush. I always like to remind my listeners on the podcast, don't rush through episodes. There's no need. Get through as many as you can, but don't rush through them. And with that, thank you so much for joining us. Happy Thanksgiving to our Canadian listeners. I know American Thanksgiving is around the corner. American Thanksgiving is going to be a big day for the NFL. And I think that week is week 7. It's either week 7 or down the road. I think it's week 7. I gotta check to confirm when American Thanksgiving is. But for now, that is it for this one. Thank you very much for joining us. Please like if you like this video. Please hit subscribe if you really like it. Tell all your friends so we can get this podcast into as many ears as we possibly can. Again, we're not perfect with podcasting, but we're taking what we're learning and using it to, dare I say it, keep this podcast running and keep everything the way that we want it to go. I will catch you on the flip side. And again, as I said to our Canadian listeners, happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you for joining us today for your weekly dose of sports content. If you have any questions or thoughts on this show that you'd like to let our host know about, simply send us a voice message on Anchor and let us know what you think we can improve on to help us out on the show. And remember that it is not goodbye, it is until next time. See you Wednesday.
Bills are happening now. They're making it happen now. You've got the spirit, a lot of spirit, yeah. You've got the spirit.